Let's talk about S3 lifecycle policies. What these lifecycle policies are. Lifecycle policy store object cost effectively throughout their life cycle. When you are storing an object, it may have a life cycle, like I would be accessing this very frequently, like my current month payslip, maybe I want to look into it. But my last 2 years payslip, maybe I'm not accessing them very frequently. Right? So same thing here. You could configure these lifecycle policies which will automate transitioning of your object from one tier to another tier. Like an example you see here that I have S3 standard where my object is being created or being stored, and what I want now, once it has been there for 30 days, I want it to be transitioning automatically to my standard infrequent access. It should stay there 90 days, then it should go to Glacier, and from that Glacier after 365 days probably I may want to expire it, delete it, because I do not need it. So this is one simple policy which I want to configure. Your policy could be little different. Your life cycle may be different. You may not want to expire it that early. So it depends, but you could transition your object from one tier to another tier by life cycle policy. Now, if you want to know more on the life cycle, I don't want to give you a very lengthy table because it already exists here. Let me go to performance chart into this link. The links would be available to you into the resources section. Here, every detail is mentioned for every class. Designed for durability, designed for availability, SLA which we promise, availability zones where the data is stored, minimum capacity charges per object. So there may be some minimum capacity, like for infrequent access, 128 KB is the object charge, minimum charge you would pay for. If your object is shorter or smaller, sorry, it is, let's say 4 KB, you would still be paying charge for 128 KB in that case. So probably you may want to zip multiple objects together and make a bigger object around this size and then keep it. And then some of the tier may have some minimum storage duration. Like if you store data into S3 standard IA, then you would be storing it for minimum of 30 days. If you delete it before, you will still be charged. And similarly, for other services like Glacier, this number could be higher, like Glacier Flexible Retrieval. Let me zoom in further so I can see more details here. And you would be able to see that what could be different storage minimums I may have to maintain. Like Glacier Deep Archive, once you store, you have to keep it for 180 days. Right. So this is what this table is all about, which is performance across S3 storage classes. So check different parameters here: storage types, life cycle transition supported, minimum storage duration, retrieval charges. That is all displayed here. Coming back to our discussion on the life cycle policies, so let's create the policy which we have depicted here. I want an object to end up into standard I after 30 days, after 90 into Glacier, and be deleted after 365 days. That's what I am looking for. Let's go ahead and implement this solution in Management Console. So I'll go to S3. Lifecycle policies are configured on a bucket level. You could target individual objects inside the bucket or all the object. It is purely up to you, but configuration is done on a bucket level. So I would select that bucket, and here is my management tab where I would find option for lifecycle rules. So I could create lifecycle rules. Use lifecycle rule to define action you want S3 to take during an object's lifetime, such as transitioning to another storage class, archiving them, or deleting them after a specified period of time. So I'm creating a lifecycle rule here. I could give it a name. I would say move data, simple name. I could say, would I be limiting this rule to specific object based on prefixes? I could keep that information here. I could filter specific object based on prefix, tag, size, or whatever other combination which suits you. I would say let's keep it simple, apply to all object in the bucket, and I acknowledge it because that may be having a impact on some of the application if I put it into Glacier and application is trying to access, and that's why I'm saying here, hey, I know what I'm doing. I could say what I plan to do. I can move current version of object between storage classes. We haven't discussed versions so far, but we will discuss. So we can move current version. All my versions are currently current, right? Not the good English, currently current. But yeah, these are all my latest versions which is here. I could also move non-current version. I'm not interested in that right now. I want to expire current version of object. Yes, if I want, or I could say permanently delete some of the objects. So I could expire them and then I could delete it. Now there is a little difference between expire and delete. When an object has to be deleted, S3 may not delete it immediately once it reaches to the life cycle. It would put into expire. And then those expire object would be cleaned by the delete process. So expire would mark them for deletion and delete process would actually delete those objects. I could select transition here. Very user friendly interface here. So I want to choose storage class standard IA days after object creation. I would say 30 days. Done. Is it only one transaction? Let's go back to what we've planned to do. For 30 days, afterward in standard, and after 90 days go to glacier. So I would add one more transaction here, and this time I would say I want to move it to glacier. I would say, let's say glacier deep archive, and here I could put detail of that object, detail of the day, sorry, I would say 90 days. I have added the transaction. Here again giving a warning that the small object may still be getting charged based on the minimum size commitment. I acknowledge that too. And now I want to expire those objects after 365 days, and obviously it would be deleting expired object or incomplete multi-part upload. So this is a rule which we have just created. We can visualize it here. Current version object uploaded. After 30 days, move to standard IA. After 89 days, glacier deep archive. After 364, object expires, and then I could create a rule like this. That rule is in effect. Any object which will be now created would be affected by this rule. One thing to be aware here that this rule will be only from higher or from hot tier up to the cold tier. It can't be reversed. So if I say I want my glacier object to be following a rule and coming to standard IA, it won't allow me to do that. So here only option I have is to current, and I could go from standard to IA, but let's say I have moved it to glacier, and then I say okay, I am happy. Let's say after 10 days I want to move it, or I acknowledge this information. I do not have any further transaction because this is the end of the line. But if I move it to instant retrieval, see what I could add now. I could now move it to further down but not up. So be aware about that we can't use lifecycle policies for moving object up into the chain. Yes, you have methods to get that object back in a batch job if the need be, but not through the lifecycle rule. So I hope this thing is clear that what is a lifecycle rule and how I configure this lifecycle rule here. Now, I want to highlight one ebook here, which will give you a lot of information in case you are looking for cost optimization. So let's go ahead and see this ebook, how to optimize your storage cost. It may be little dated, may not cover all the latest storage classes in Amazon S3, but still gives you a good idea on what you should be doing and what could be the methods of moving your object. As you could see that these are the type of things you should be taking into consideration. So check this PDF file, really interesting, which you could get more knowledge from. So hopefully this thing is clear. So lifecycle rules are clear, and then we will take a short break and then move on to the next topic. Thank you.